Story time about my online boyfriend that I flew to Minnesota to meet up with in 8th grade. Despite this video being for entertainment, this is something that's very dangerous. I knew what I was doing was stupid and I did it anyway. Please do not do this at any situation. I was very lucky that something bad did not happen to me. Anyway, this all started in 2022 when I was in 8th grade, and I was pretty obsessed with the idea of having a boyfriend. And honestly, the guys that I had talked to were really bad people and I was not getting very lucky. And also at the time, me and my friends had an obsession with playing Roblox. Me and my school friends would play with some of our online friends, which were like actual like good people. And it was like these 3 boys and then this 1 girl. Anyways, one night we were all playing Roblox together and these 2 boys joined our server. And when we would all play together, we'd all like call on Discord, so like it was this big thing. And these boys that had joined the server also had Discord. So we start talking to these boys and we're like, oh, we should all call and play Roblox together. And we add them into our little Discord thing and we played Roblox together multiple times. So sometimes when we would play with these 2 boys, this 1 boy who we're gonna call C. Now me and my friends usually played with C, not the other boy. So me and C obviously started spending a lot of time together. It got to the point where we'd start texting one-on-one on Discord. We started texting one-on-one so that we could organize like our friend group playing together. And late at night when our friends would go to sleep, me and him would play together. Now all the people that me and my friends would play with were either younger than us or they were the same age as us, but C was about a year older than us. And the reason that me and C got along so well was because we had a lot of similar interests. We both played instruments, we both liked to draw, and I felt like we both kind of got along on the same level. Anyway, one thing turned into another. Eventually we would be on call together until like 3 in the morning, and I had never really had that happen to me with a guy before. So talking to a guy that like actually cared about what I was saying was something that was like so new and so intriguing. But anyway, some time goes by and obviously we both started developing feelings for each other, being like 14 and 15 years old. He asked me if I want to be his girlfriend. Were we actually dating? No, we were like in middle school. It wasn't that serious, but at the time it did feel serious. But then people from my school started finding out about it. The girls that was in our friend group, I would tell her about how me and this guy were like dating, and she told everyone. And obviously I was embarrassed because I didn't want people to know that the only guy that I had ever been in a relationship with was now an online boyfriend. Anyway, it gets worse. This relationship lasts about like 2 weeks, and eventually we get into a big fight because he asked me for, and obviously I say no. It ends up happening a few times where he'll ask me later and I say no again, and it got to one point where we started fighting and he just blocked me. Right when I thought that this situation couldn't get any worse, my parents decided to go through my phone. And obviously they're not very happy. I end up getting grounded and I don't get my phone back for about like 2 months. I was grounded, I would go on my computer and I still had him friended on Roblox so we would play together. Anyway, I go into my freshman year and I want to say that I completely forgot about the situation, but I did not. Regardless of the fact that I talked to multiple guys and got into so many situationships, I still was talking to this online guy. The thing was that he apologized, so we ended up being like friends, and then we would still play Roblox, we still would call, and we'd still talk, and we were just friends. Fast forward to us being friends for a while, I end up going on a trip with my family to the Mall of America. By the way, this was the summer before my sophomore year, so this was an entire 2 years that had passed. But at the time that I was going, I told him, hey, I'm going to the Mall of America. No, you live 5 minutes away from the Mall of America. We should meet up. Of course, he's like, oh, I have soccer practice that day, but I would love to meet up. While I'm on a trip to the Mall of America with my family, I split up with them and go meet up with this boy. Anyways, I do have a picture of him like spying on me, also like us meeting up, so if you guys want to see that, this video to 10k likes, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please do not do anything I did in this video because again, it's dangerous. And yeah, thanks for watching.
So there may have been a murderer living in my New York City apartment. So this is my story time. Okay, I literally have a whole list of notes in front of me to make sure that I don't forget details. So me and my roommates, like a year and a half ago, were sitting on our couch and all of a sudden hear like literally a bloody murder scream, like sounded like someone was being murdered. So immediately we're like, oh my God, let's call the police because something's happening. So we call 911 and they come, and because we don't know exactly what apartment unit number the sound is coming from, they say that they can't do anything. And I was like, you can't go door to door. And they were like, no, sorry, there's really nothing we can do. If it happens again, try to figure out what apartment number it's coming from. So I was like, okay, so that's not helpful at all. So throughout the week, like we start hearing screaming all the time, and we call the police multiple times. I know that other people in the building are calling the police because they'll show up at our building when we weren't the ones who called. I'm going to insert a clip of what it sounded like, the screams, right here. So in that first semester that it started happening, we called the police at least, I would say 10 times. And then so obviously like I started calling the super and emailing like higher up people who own our building, and they were like, unfortunately there's really nothing we can do. You can't just like evict people in New York City. You need a case. So like send us videos with timestamps of what's going on. So I start taking videos all the time, which it starts to be like literally every single day. It would just be like, oh, he's screaming again, or oh, someone's screaming bloody murder again. So I just started collecting a bunch of videos. So I had like a whole album of stuff that I would send to them so that they could send it to their lawyers to create a case. So I go to NYU, so I'm in a New York City, just regular apartment, but there are other NYU girls, or were other NYU girls in my building who happened to share one of the walls with them, with the man who was screaming. And they said that in like the middle of the night, like he'll be pounding on things. It'll sound like he's hammering things. He'll be screaming. He'll be yelling. He'll be kicking things, punching things, throwing things, breaking things. Like they've called the police multiple times. So other people in our building are obviously noticing it. People start talking, like when we're in the halls, like trying to figure out what's going on and what we can do. So one day in particular, it gets really bad. And I actually don't know, like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember it being really bad to the point where we were like, okay, it had been going on for so long where we like weren't calling the police because we had called the police so many times and there was nothing they could do, that we were like, okay, we're calling the police right now because this is really bad. And they were like, okay, we've gotten other reports. We're sending people. So they send like EMTs, fire department, and police, because we were like, let's do you should do a wellness check. So knock down the door. So for reference, our apartment building is like, the walls are like paper thin. So like if I'm sitting on my couch, I can hear the front door downstairs open, and I can also hear people walking in and out of their units, specifically like if they're on our floor. And the guy was, of course, on our floor. So I heard him come home, get into his apartment, and he did not leave because there's only one door to leave your apartment. So I knew he was in his apartment and he was screaming bloody murder. So multiple people in the building call. So then now back into the story, the police come. So they start knocking on his door and he's not answering. And they're like, guys, like he's not home. There's like nothing we can really do. And I was clipping, they're like, okay, we're going to knock down the door. So they got the fire department to come and knock down the door. When they do, the first thing that the firefighter says is, oh my God, it looks like a sex dungeon in here. So that's never a good sign. So they walk around his entire apartment and he is nowhere to be found because he escaped through his fire escape, through the courtyard, and out through the front door of our building. So the second that they open the door, we're all kind of like standing with our heads peeking out of our window, obviously, or out of our door, like obviously want to know what's going on. And the entire building starts to smell like bleach, like reeking of bleach, like so bad. And at this point, because so many people had called the police, like multiple people were coming down to our floor and just like looking at what was going on, because there was also so many like emergency responders in our building. So they said that we didn't obviously look inside of his apartment, but they said that his whole apartment was covered in blue tarps and cleaning supplies. And I believe that I have a photo of from downstairs seeing that his window was covered in blue tarps. So if I have it, I will insert it here. So his whole apartment was covered in blue tarps and cleaning supplies. There's blue tarps hanging from the ceiling, blue tarps covering all of the surfaces, bleach, whatever. So we're obviously freaking out because we're also like, where did he go? Like he was obviously here. So obviously at this point, like everyone in the building's really concerned. And so the girls who share the wall with him, like I invited them into our apartment and we were just like talking, and like other people in the building like started talking with us. And the people who live directly above him were like, we've been calling the police obviously for like the screaming sounds, but also because our whole apartment has been smelling like bleach. So we were just really concerned, and like they had been calling the super or whatever because the bleach scent was like going through the vents. So eventually the police are like, sorry guys, he's not here. We have to leave. There's nothing we can do once again. So they leave and we're all still like talking in the lobby. And as we're talking in the lobby, the guy whose apartment it is like comes sprinting up the stairs, runs into his apartment and locks the door. So we're all like, oh my gosh. So we call 911 again. I called them and was like, hi, just want you to know that you guys just left. But the guy returned back to his apartment, re-explained the whole situation. Takes them 45 minutes, but they eventually come back and they take him away into the ambulance, whatever. I don't really know what happened. All I do know is that the girls texted me later that night saying that he returned. Thankfully, this was around my summer break from school, so I went home, and eventually by the time that I came back to school, he was completely moved out and there's new people moved in, so I'm not really sure what happened. So we asked the building for compensation and they tried raising our rent, and we were like, how about you decrease our rent because we literally had a murderer in our building. And they were like, okay, well, we can't do that, but we're going to give you guys $200 gift cards to any place you want. And I was like, okay, that's like not helpful at all, but like, sure, obviously we'll accept. So I go, oh, I'll get a DoorDash gift card. And they were like, actually, we only like supporting small businesses, which like, okay, totally get and understand. And I also love supporting small businesses, but we literally had a man murdering people in our building. We don't know that for sure. We're not exactly 100% sure what happened. But I feel like the least you could do is give me, like, if let me choose where this gift card's money is going. And like, oh my God. And so this is so unimportant to the story, but like, yeah, so we don't actually know what happened. And I actually had multiple people in my building text me being like, hey, did you ever get any update? And I was like, I actually have no idea. Those girls moved out. A lot of people in my building did move out because like the situation did go on for like over a year. And it was definitely getting really crazy and really scary. So I really hope that everything was okay. And I really don't know what happened. I think I am going to reach out to the building and just like see if there's any update. I don't know what they're allowed to tell us or what they're not. But it was definitely really scary. And I hope that that guy got the help that he needed. I hope that everyone is safe. A really crazy part of my college experience was coming home to literally screams of bloody murder and agony. All any time of the day, literally any time of the day. So that was a long way to story time. Wow, this is really long, so hopefully I can edit it down. But thanks so much for watching.
This is why if I'm not expecting nobody, I'm not opening that door. So there's this woman who lives in the rural Midwest in a house right off the highway. Her house was right in between two towns, basically on the county line, and they had a big circle driveway. If you drove into the driveway, you would be headed straight towards their barn. But if you curved to the right, you would be heading to their garage. And if you go past the garage, you could circle back around in front of the house and come back to where you started. They had two large double doors in the front of the house, but they said they hardly used them. They mainly used the door in the garage, which is pretty normal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody always used the back door, the side door. Like, nobody really be using the front doors. I mean, I guess some people use the front doors, but I don't know. Out in the country where I'm from, everybody use their back door and their side door. So one night, it's super late. She, her husband, and her 3-year-old are all asleep when the doorbell rings. It wakes her up, and she thought she was dreaming at first, but then she hears it again. So she wakes her husband up and tells him that somebody rang the doorbell, and he's like, are you sure? Like, I didn't hear anything. You sure you're not hearing things? And then it rings again. So she says it's really dark outside, but they have dusk till dawn lights, so most of the driveway is lit up. Now, I ain't know what no dusk till dawn light was. I ain't never heard of that. But apparently it's a light where, like, when the sun is going down, the light cuts on. And then, like, when the sun is rising, the lights cut back off. Which I think is pretty convenient. That's pretty dope. Do I ever see one of them? I don't know. We just always got the porch light on. She says, unfortunately, you can't really see at the front door, though, unless you actually open it up. She said you can't open one door at a time, or you can lift, like, the latch that's at the top and the bottom and open both doors at the same time. Now, y'all got dusk till dawn lights. Y'all ain't got no damn Ring doorbell, a peephole. I don't know, like, the only option is to open the door. I feel like y'all should put some other options in place. Maybe the Ring cameras won't have been in yet. I don't know. She did say this was like 10 years ago. But I know y'all got a damn peephole. Y'all got double doors. Y'all gotta have a peephole. A window by the door, something. So husband gets up and she follows. He decides he's gonna open the door. Why? Why? She's like, she wanna call the cops, but she knows that because they live on a county line, it's gonna take them a long time to get there. I don't give a damn how long it takes them to get there. Whoever's out there can wait till they get here. Because I'm not opening that door. I'm not opening that door. I got my 3-year-old in here. It's this late at night. We not expecting nobody. We can't even see. We ain't got no peephole. I'm not opening that damn door. But husband opens the door. So there's a girl standing out there. She looks like she's in her 20s. And except she looks normal, except for the fact that she's standing at their door in the middle of the damn night. So she looks past the girl and sees that there's a car pulled up kind of like in the driveway right off of the road. Not up in the driveway, not around the circle, like not up to the house, but just like right off of the road. I'm not gonna lie, I had a really hard time picturing this driveway layout. Like I don't really understand it. Maybe if somebody else feel like they can understand what a driveway look like, draw a picture of it and put it in the comments for me. So shorty at the door is like, can I use y'all phone? Because my car battery died or something. I don't know, but I can't get it to start. So husband says, fuck no, and shuts the door. No, I'm kidding. That's not what he said. I wish that's what he would have said, but he didn't. But the wife is like, this is how horror movies start. What we can do is call the police for you. The girl keeps asking, just let me use the phone. Like, can I just come in and use your phone? Like, that's all I want to do. But wife is like, no, you're not coming in. Sorry. Not sorry, actually. They tell her, look, we're going to call the cops for you. That's that on that. And the girl like storms off the porch. So they watch her walk back to her car. They can see the girl, they can see the car. They call the police. The police are like, all right, like give us like 15 minutes. They don't sound that concerned. And the wife said, honestly, she wasn't that concerned either. She was like, it's just a girl. Like, she probably do got a dead battery, but I ain't finna let her in this house to find out. Like, and I don't blame her. I wouldn't be like, I'm sorry you got a dead battery, but you gonna have to sit in that car with that dead battery. We gonna call the folks for you though. So the girl then opens the trunk of her car and no lights come on. So it does indicate that her car battery is dead. And she's rummaging around the trunk. Then the driver's side door opens and out steps a guy. Then the back passenger door opens and out steps another guy. Upon seeing this, I would look at my husband and say, now what the hell you open that goddamn door for? Because for what? What you open that door for? And what they doing out there? And why she didn't tell us it was 2 other people in the car with her? Suspicious. So now all 3 of them are like rummaging through the trunk. Shorty says she can't hear what they're saying. She can't see what they're doing. They just like in the trunk and then they all get back in the car. So at this point, 5 minutes have gone by and she hoping that the sheriff just kind of hurries up. But she knows it's probably going to be about another 10 minutes before they get there. She said they're still in the car, like not moving. She can't really see in the car, but there's no light on in the car or anything. And like, there's nothing going on. She says she knows that they're sitting in the car and haven't gotten out of the car and like walked up to the house or anything because they would have had to walk right under the dusk till dawn lights and she definitely would have saw them. She says she thinks she sees the driver like light a cigarette in the car, but she's not 100% sure. And then she sees someone walking towards the car from the direction of the barn. It's a man. She doesn't know who he is. She said they don't have any neighbors. And he's coming from the back of their property, which has a creek. He walks under the dusk till dawn lights and goes straight to the car. Doesn't even look at the house. And he gets in the back. Woo. I don't know if they got that thing on them in that house, but I would have had that thing ready for whatever. Because at this point, what y'all doing out there? Because what you doing in my backyard? What was you going to find back there to start the car? And get this. He gets in the car starts, and they drive off. Now I thought the damn car was dead. I thought the car was dead. I almost believed that her battery was dead. No, I didn't. I never believed that. But the lady in the story almost believed it. So the cops arrive about 10 minutes later and they don't find nothing. I mean, what could they find? Like, I guess they go to look and see like if he had broken into anything, but I guess they don't find anything. And he like, well, we don't see nothing. Call us if they come back, I guess. How about you spend the night outside? How about that? Patrol, do a little patrol. Just do a little stakeout, if you would be so kind. But husband goes into the shop, which is apparently on their property, and gets his pew-pew, and they try to go back to sleep. I would be so unrested. I wouldn't be getting a lick of sleep. Not a lick. My eyes would burn from how long I would keep them open laying in that bed. But folks never came back. They don't know who they was. They don't know what they wanted. I don't give a damn who they was or what they wanted. Crazy business. Y'all stay safe out there.
When I was 13, I made the worst decision of my life. It traumatized me so much. I'm now 19 and I regret it every day. I decided to move away from my family to a completely different city 2 hours away and live in an apartment with 2 girls I barely knew, one of them I had never met, to pursue gymnastics more seriously. The way this worked is Monday through Friday, we had gymnastics and we would do like school upstairs online. And then every night a different parent would come stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment. And then at the end of the week on Friday, we would all go back home and then drive back up to the apartment Sunday night. So I would see my mom like once or twice a week and then some of Friday, all of Saturday, and some of Sunday. Why she let me do this, I have no idea. Also, all 3 of us were about the same age and I was in 8th grade. The only good thing that came out of this is I met one of my best friends who was the girl I didn't know. The gym environment ended up being absolutely traumatizing and we were all being abused. Things went south pretty quick. We were all crying multiple times a day. We would cry before practice, we would cry at night anticipating practice, we'd cry after practice, and our parents were like, you made this decision, like you gotta stick to it, but I don't think they knew how bad it was. We all started to experience panic attacks and we just wanted to be home. I absolutely hated like every second there and I'm pretty sure they did too. I have so many stories of just whack, horrible things that happened there. But like I said, there was one good thing that came out of it, and that was meeting my best friend, and she was the girl that I didn't know when I first moved in. We became inseparable, like super quick. We did everything together, and when we weren't at practice or worrying about practice, we were like laughing. The whole time we were supposed to be doing school, we would be laughing. Like, I never laughed harder than I did with that girl. We would have movie nights like all the time, and since we were all staying in the same bedroom, we ended up making a fort underneath our beds because they were all touching, and we'd watch movies under there. My best friend ended up bringing her cat, and we also had a hamster. That hamster is a story for a different time, but we had so much fun having like the cat there. We were definitely all trauma bonded because we went through so much together. I still talk to the girl I was best friends with. I actually FaceTimed her the other night, and she's my best friend I've ever had in my entire life. I wish I could have met my bestie in a different way because the damage was so not worth it. This entire thing lasted over a year, so let me know if you want more stories from this time in my life because I have so many.
I used to work as a server for private events in Hollywood Hills. Most of the parties were what you would expect, producers, influencers, actors pretending not to know each other. One night I got hired for a private industry mixer. This one is super hush-hush, no phones allowed, like NDA signed kind of a deal. The house was absolutely massive. All the windows were glass, literally surrounding, city lights below, and an infinity pool, that kind of a vibe. Something definitely fell off though. There was no music, there was no laughing. People were talking, but it was more in a quiet tone, and they were just kind of watching each other really closely. So around midnight, one of the main people, he asked me to bring a tray of drinks downstairs. I didn't even notice that there was a downstairs until I was guided through the kitchen, and there was like this big metal heavy door, and you opened it, you could hear like low rhythmic bass playing. There was music on the other side. I knocked lightly and I let myself inside. One thing that I noticed right off the back is it was red lighting. Not a lot of people, maybe like 15, and they were all kind of just standing in like a circle. In the center of the circle was an empty chair. Everybody kind of looked at me all at one time, not surprised, not like in a bad way, but just kind of assessing that my presence was there. One woman looked at me and she said, "You're early." And I just kind of froze and I said, "I'm just here to give out some drinks." And then a man came over, he took a drink off of the tray, and then he leaned in and whispered, "You shouldn't come down here unless you're invited." I backed out immediately, went back the way that I came, and I pulled another server and I said, "What is happening downstairs?" And she went pale and she looked at me and she said, "There is no downstairs." So I told her where I just came from, and she pulled my arm and dragged me into the kitchen. The doorway was gone. There was no door. I wondered if I took a wrong turn, but I know that the layout wasn't that big. And around midnight, towards the end of the party, when the party ended around 2 a.m., I was handed a very large envelope of cash, triple the amount that I was promised, and it said, "Thank you for not participating." I have never worked a job in the hills ever again since that time, but I do remember where it was, and sometimes when I pass that house, there's no lights on, but you can still see the silhouettes behind the glass.